Continuing on, so we're going to have x to the 4 minus 12x cubed plus 38x squared minus 23x plus 14, which is divided by x minus 7. So for this one, we're going to do it in the same way which we do normal division. So we're going to put x minus 7, which divides our expression here. Yes, so now we're going to look at the first term, which is x to the 4. So to get to x to the 4, we're going to have to multiply the x minus 7 with an x cubed. So on the top, we're going to write an x cubed, which will then multiply with the x minus 7 to get x to the 4 minus 7x cubed. Then we're going to subtract these two terms, and we will be ending up with minus 5x cubed. And then we can bring the rest down again. So minus 38x squared plus 23x plus 14. Now we're going to do the same with the minus 5x, so we'll put minus 5x squared. We'll then multiply that again. So minus 5x cubed plus 35x squared. After subtracting that, we'll end up with 3x squared minus 23x plus 14. And then we're going to add a 3x now, because we want to subtract the 3x. So 3x squared minus 21x. And then when you subtract that, we'll get minus 2x plus 14. And to end that, then we'll just put a minus 2, which then should give us a 0. So this is where you would usually end a polynomial division. So if a question like this is being given, we'll now say that the polynomial x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 2 times x to the minus 7 will give us our f of x. Oh yes, and in this case, I should also write my f of x at the start here, so that we're right. So here we'll say f of x is equal to our equation here. So I hope you understood that. If not, please do comment down below or do ask any questions. But now we will move on to the factor theorem. So when you think about factor theorem, you think about these two rules, which I'm going to write down below. Maybe this might not make sense to you now, but it will hopefully after the examples that I write down. So the first one, we will say x minus a is a factor of a polynomial f of x if and only if f of a is equal to 0. So this would be our first bullet point. But there can also be another way of writing this, which is a bit more complex. So our second rule will be ax minus b is a factor of f of x, a polynomial, if and only if f of b over a is equal to 0. Now then, like I said, I will show you some examples of what these mean, and hopefully it will probably help you. So let me do an example which has both of them combined. This is more of a simple one. You might not get this a lot, but this is just to help you. So number one, we will have a function which is 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. Oh, I was meant to write 3 on there. There we go, let's change it. So that'll be our f of x. And so of course we need to factorize this. So this will be equal to 2x plus 1 times x plus 1. And on here we have two factors, and so according to the factor theorem, we have one in the form of ax minus b, which would be our 2x plus 1, and hence we should be able to conclude that f of minus a half is equal to 0. And also we have one in the form of x minus a, which would be our x plus 1, and so we can conclude that f of minus 1 is also 0. So now we're going to move on to a further example, which is a bit harder than the previous one, but hopefully this is all to help you out. So we're going to have a function here again. So x cubed plus x squared minus 13x plus 14 is equal to 0. And so we're going to have to find the solutions for this equation. And so here we're going to let that equal to f of x, just to call it a function in this case. And so to do this type of questions, we're going to have to look at the first route that we can try out. So in here we might be using different x coordinates to see which one brings this to 0. So let's try x equals 1. So f of 1 is equal to 1 plus 1 minus 13 plus 14, which is equal to, well, that'll be 14 minus the 13 plus the 1 and the 1, which would be 3, which is not equal to 0. So let's try x equals 2. So f of 2 would be equal to 2 cubed, which is 8. And then we'll have 2 squared, which is 4, minus 26 plus 14. So again here we would have minus 26 plus 14, which is minus 12, plus 12, which is 0. So according to the factor theorem, if f of a is equal to 0, then it means that x minus a is a factor. Hence, for this equation here, x minus 2 will be our factor. Now that we have a factor, we can now say that x cubed plus x squared minus 13x plus 14, let me change that to plus really quickly, will then be equal to, and by using polynomial division, we can get this answer. So x squared plus 3x minus 7 times x minus 2. Hence, going back to the question, we need to find the solutions. So if we use quadratic equation, we'll be able to find that one solution to our x will be x is equal to minus 3 plus root 37 divided by 2. And so our other one will be x equals minus 3 minus root 37 divided by 2. Also, do mention the x equals 2 part as well. Now then, we'll move to our last example of the video, which is a bit more complex. So with this last example, we're going to be dealing with some unknown coefficients of our x's. So we're going to have x cubed plus 7x squared plus cx plus d. And so for these, we're given that the factors are x plus 1 and also x plus 2. And so I'm just going to equal that to f of x really quickly. So we know from the factor theorem again that if x plus 1 is a factor, then it means that f of minus 1 should be equal to 0. Now the same would apply to the x plus 2 bracket as well, which means that f of minus 1 we could substitute back in, which will get minus 1 cubed plus minus 1. Then we'll get plus 7 minus c plus d, which is equal to 0. So we can rearrange that and get, therefore, d minus c plus 6, which is equal to 0. And again, like I said, this will apply to x plus 2 as well. So we're going to try for f of minus 2, which is then going to be equal to minus 2 cubed, which is minus 8. And then that'll be 2 squared, which is 4 times the 7, so that's plus 28. Minus 2c plus d. And again, this will equal 0, so we can rearrange and rewrite it as d minus 2c plus 20, which is equal to 0. So we're now going to solve these simultaneously. So we've got our two equations now. So the first one will be d minus c plus 6 is equal to 0. And also d minus 2c plus 20 is equal to 0. So we can rearrange the first equation to make d the subject. And so by doing that, we can say that d will be equal to c minus 6. And we could substitute that into the second equation by saying that c minus 6 minus 2c plus 20 is equal to 0, which means that our c will therefore be equal to 14 after rearranging the equation. And so we can substitute that back into our equation that we found, so that d will therefore be equal to 14 minus 6, and so d will be equal to 8. And now we can get back to our original function and now put those values in. So f of x will therefore be equal to x cubed plus 7x squared plus 14x plus 8. So that's how we would solve these types of questions. I hope this video has helped you understand factor theorem and the types of questions that you might come up with, as well as the basis of polynomials and polynomial division. If you like this video, please do subscribe, share and like. Comment down below on anything you'd like me to do next, and also feedback on how you found this video today. Hope you like this. I'll see you in my next video. Prop flexing. Peace out.